Coming up on Network Africa, Britain to cut humanitarian aid by 50% over the next 4 years to victims of terror attacks in northeast Nigeria. Ten civilians killed in Somalia, U.S. joint raid. And Hashem Abedi, younger brother to Manchester bomber, to be tried in Libya over his suspected role in the attack. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Nwaka. We begin in Algeria, where a suicide bomber has killed 2 policemen in the region of Tiret. The state media reports that one of the policemen threw himself on the attacker, whose explosive belt detonated after officers had intervened when the attacker tried to enter the police headquarters southwest of the capital, Algiers. It's the second attack this year targeted at the Algerian police. In February, a policeman foiled an attempted suicide attack on a police station in the eastern city of Constantine. Well, that attack was claimed by the so-called Islamic State. In the Central African Republic, a Catholic bishop, Juan Munoz, says that for the past 3 months, he has been sheltering 2,000 Muslims in Bangassou as the Christian anti-Balaka militia waits for them outside the church compound. Some of those seeking shelter say they had been shot as doctors from Médecins Sans Frontières had to suspend their operations last week due to security problems. Central African Republic violence has displaced more than 1 million people. The situation is reminiscent of events in 2013 when people sought refuge in churches to escape the battles between Muslim and Christian militias. Well, it comes as the United Nations humanitarian chief Stephen O'Brien warns the UN Security Council of a genocide risk in the Central African Republic. Well, suffering instability and poverty on a huge scale is what the Boko Haram insurgency has generated, with effects beyond Nigeria's borders, says the British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. He met with casualties of Boko Haram violence in Maiduguri on Wednesday, where he also took time out to interact with some Nigerian troops alongside their British trainers in the Borno state capital. Mr. Johnson expressed delight in Britain's commitment to supporting a Commonwealth partner in its fight against terror, adding that the British military has trained 28,000 Nigerian troops and equipped them with skills to turn the tide against Boko Haram. The Secretary, accompanied by Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, visited the Commonwealth war graves. He was there to pay tribute to Nigerians who paid the supreme price during the First and Second World Wars, as well as other peacekeeping missions around the world.
What we're trying to show is, of course, the joined-up approach that the government is taking to this crisis. You've seen the suffering of the people of Nigeria, the victims of Boko Haram, and of course you're seeing what we're doing with food aid to help those who've been driven away from their villages and from their homes into the camps. But what we're also trying to do with our diplomacy and with our military forces is to help turn the tide against Boko Haram, get the country back under control, help the Nigerian military. I think we've trained 28,000 troops so far.
Well, in the meantime, Britain is to reduce by 50% the amount of money it gives in humanitarian aid to victims of terror attacks in northeast Nigeria over the next few years. During a 2-day visit, the British International Development Secretary, Priti Patel, says the Nigerian authorities should do more to defeat the Boko Haram extremists, adding that other countries needed to do more to shoulder the aid burden. More than 1.5 million people have been driven from their homes, and farming has all been but seized in large parts of Nigeria's northeast, creating food shortages and acute malnutrition. In 2016, the UK spent £100 million, but the next 4 years they have pledged £200 million, which amounts to £50 million per year on average. Well, joining us now is a former Nigerian ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador Oladapo Fafawora. Welcome to the program. We understand Britain intends to reduce by 50% the amount in humanitarian aid to Nigeria over the next 4 years. How do you think this will impact humanitarian support in Nigeria?
Well, at the moment, Nigeria needs a lot of humanitarian aid. The Boko Haram insurgency and internally displaced persons. But I'm sure the Nigerian government would have been fully briefed as to why the British government is reducing humanitarian aid to Nigeria. Britain itself is facing some economic difficulties, the uncertainty over Brexit and all that. So one can understand why Britain now finds it necessary to reduce aid to Nigeria.
Okay, Ambassador, UK's International Development Minister, Ms. Priti Patel says, that the Nigerian government needs to do more to defeat the extremist group and secure the safety of lives and property of its own people. Do you think Nigerian authorities are doing enough in this regard?
I agree with that remark by the British minister. We have it. Despite our current economic difficulties, Nigeria is still resource rich. It has enormous resources, and some of the money that has been recovered, some of the recovered loot should be applied to humanitarian efforts in Nigeria. We are a large country. We should not allow ourselves to be treated as a banana republic.
Next story.
The banana republic. If our people are in difficulty, if they need humanitarian aid, it's our primary responsibility, and not the responsibility of other countries, no matter how well-meaning they are. We should be able to look after ourselves. I believe that if we apply our resources more judiciously, we will be able to do that. There's a lot of money, the recovered money from the loot and other resources that can be more usefully applied to assisting our own people here. So I don't think that it should make too much of an impact. The reduction of British humanitarian aid today should not make too much of an impact. We should be able to cover the gap. And we must prepare for the future, because the trend obviously is that we cannot continue to rely on foreign assistance to cope with our own humanitarian disasters here. It's a large country, and we are not a banana republic. So our government should do more to assist our own people. I think the resources are there.